I'd say one of the things that comes up all the time in my conversations, Alex, is a lot of duplication of effort across the business. It's taking time away from more profitable activities that people could be focusing their time and energy on. Industry leading bodies, they're increasingly focusing on e-commerce. For example, Screwfix, over 60% of their total revenue is generated online.
Hello, and welcome back to the Pimbly Perspectives podcast. I'm your host, Alex McConnell. In this podcast, we explore the challenges and opportunities in product data and digital transformation across different industries. Today, we're going to be focusing on builders, merchants, and manufacturers. To talk about that, I'm inviting my colleague, Alex Phipps, because he works daily with builders, merchants, and manufacturers, so he's very familiar with their recurring challenges. Some of the things we're going to be covering today, the hidden costs of product data, of poor product data across the supply chain, the impact of regulations that are coming in like plastic packaging tax, CCPI, and the upcoming digital product passport, and the influence big merchants like Screwfix and B&Q have across the industry in setting product data standards and the way that they're moving more and more sales digital. So without any further ado, let's invite Alex Phipps to the podcast.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Alex. I'm one of the account executives here at Pimbly. I've been with the business for nearly 6 years now, been an account executive for around 3.5 years. About a year into my role as an AE here at Pimbly, I started working on the building materials as a dedicated vertical, and it's now become our largest amongst our customer base and also remains our fastest growing vertical as well.
So obviously Pimbly is a product information management platform. So you spend a lot of your time talking to builders, merchants, manufacturers about their product information. Why is it becoming such an important focus for builders, merchants, and manufacturers as the industry shifts towards a more digital world?
I'd say that the building materials market as a whole has been slower to adopt the digital transformation journey that we've seen be on the forefront of the minds of industries such as fashion for going on decades now. I think this all stems from the fact that customers becoming increasingly expectant in terms of the quality and availability of product data online. This therefore pushes that pressure down the supply chain to the manufacturers as well, because your merchants and retailers strive to have better quality data so they can serve their customers, and therefore they're becoming increasingly demanding of distributors and manufacturers to provide them with high quality product information that they can easily slot into their online channels, whether it's on their own website or via marketplaces. Hence why the demand is getting pushed across organizations.
Yeah, what's some of those early warning signs that the business's current way of managing product data? I mean, I'm sure you've seen every variety of different way that businesses deal with this, whether it's through a spreadsheet or trying to use that ERP for this, or, just using the supplier pieces they get given. What are some of the ways that those can hold them back?
I'd say one of the things that comes up all the time in my conversations, Alex, is a lot of duplication of effort across the business. And what problem this is causing is that it's taking time away from more profitable activities that people could be focusing their time and energy on, because they're having to go through so many different manual processes to collate and share data with their customers. So that's one of the key areas. And another thing that comes up all the time is delayed launches for products, whether it's new ranges that they're wanting to push out to their customers, whether it's a new brand that they want to launch, whatever it may be, because a lot of manual processes exist. There's a lot of disparate systems where data is managed. Often launch is delayed, not because the products aren't available in the warehouse, but the business simply isn't in a position to provide high quality, accurate product information to the customer. And a lot of businesses don't want to launch products until they've got to that utopian state. Therefore, that's why we're finding that there are a lot of challenges that having poor quality product data and also processes within businesses are becoming restrictive factors.
Yeah, you mentioned there about maybe a bit about the expectations of customers and maybe suppliers as well. Do you think a lot of that is feeding this push towards better product data in these kind of builders, merchants, manufacturers, businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the demand from customers in the more digitally aware market that we are seeing in this day and age, particularly as the younger generation is coming through who are used to transacting online. They have the expectation that I should, one, be able to get this information on a readily available basis, and two, that it should be of a high quality, because industry leading bodies, for example, Screwfix, B&Q, etc., they're increasingly focusing on e-commerce. For example, Screwfix, over 60% of their total revenue last year was generated online, and therefore we're seeing increased pressure on merchants of varying different sizes to want to compete in this space, because there's a lower cost of sale on average transacting online versus more traditional bricks and mortar routes to market. Therefore, it's definitely a focus for businesses, but often they find that they don't have the infrastructure or data quality in place to maximize the return that they could receive off these channels.
Yeah, it's an industry that just has masses of information, masses of products. When you're thinking about parts and spares or components, things like that, it just gets very complex, doesn't it? I mean, how does that, do you think that feeds into it being one of the industries that could benefit most from better product information?
100%. We're not just talking about a black t-shirt, not just because I'm wearing one, but it's an example that everybody is more than aware of. With the complexity of the data, particularly if, for example, if we're looking at a shower and the various components that make it up, all of these supporting digital assets, you've got your line drawings, your data sheets, and accuracy is of the utmost importance, because if you spec out a job and the weights and dimensions are just slightly off, not only can it cause issues with actually providing the customer with the product that they want, it also creates issues with fulfillment, etc. And therefore, data accuracy is key. And we're talking about large volumes of data across very diverse product ranges, which really emphasizes the challenge that having poor management of this data can present to businesses and cause a multitude of challenges across the business, whether it's returns, whether it's damaging consumer trust. And therefore, absolutely, it's a massive area of focus, and it comes up all the time. And notoriously, the industry as a whole would say that the data is not up to scratch in terms of where people want it to be. So when looking at some of the products that organizations in this market will sell, particularly great example is bathroom products. A lot of complexity in them when looking at, for example, a shower unit and all of the components that make up that product. There's often configurables in there as well. There's bundles within bundles even, and all of the supporting technical information that goes along with this as well. It's not just the features and benefits that you'd see with more traditional e-commerce products, for example, fashion. It's also all of the technical information, and it's absolutely vital that this information is accurate so people can spec out jobs properly. Also, we find that a lot of organizations have issues with weights and dimensions not being accurate, and therefore that creates fulfillment issues as well and can cause fines. So there's lots of implications for businesses that are caused by having poor quality product data.
Yeah, lots of day-to-day examples.
Absolutely.
Not just on digital, but people still do. There is like a lot still in branch, and people traditionally still shop that way, or especially in trades and things like that. So
yeah,
it can knock on not just on the digital side, which is obviously going to be more and more important, but the day-to-day, trade counter and things like that as well, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We find that because people don't have correct product data in their back-end systems when wanting to provide a service in person in the trade, in bricks and mortar stores, that people can't find that product information, particularly as we'll find that people who work in these stores perhaps don't have the extensive product knowledge, because one, they tend to be quite high turnover job roles, or maybe that they're quite new to the industry, and therefore there's such a vast amount of product data they need to have knowledge on. Unless they have the infrastructure and the systems providing them with the high quality product information on a readily available basis, there is that lack of knowledge and delays in terms of being able to provide this data to customers on demand. And of course, we've discussed the restrictions this has from an online basis as well. And there's also that element of damaged relationships with suppliers as well. When suppliers want to receive data from an organization, push data out to an organization and it's not readily available, that again creates delays in terms of them being able to push information out to their own sales channels. So absolutely, poor quality product data is causing issues across businesses and across omni-channel routes to market as well.
we are going to, we are Pimbly, we've got this product information management system. But let's just imagine for a minute that's not a solution. What would be the first place to start for a business to try and get control of this before they think about, technology necessarily as what are the sort of organizational kind of things that they could be doing?
I'd say there are a number of things that organizations should be looking at internally. I think one of the key things is to really define what good looks like to them. Every organization has different areas of focus, right? Some is very much, can we provide rich features and benefits? Others is our sustainability data. But I think it's key that businesses really define going into any exploration of PIM or other similar technologies, that they have a good understanding of what they want to achieve going into the project. And part of this as well is data ownership across the business. Inherently, product information management and product management across the business doesn't just sit within one team, and therefore it's understanding within the business the roles and responsibilities of the individuals who are involved in that product management journey. That's absolutely a consideration that businesses should be making going into researching these topics. And of course, part of this as well is the cleansing of product data. The cleaner product data that you can provide to any software provider, including PIM provider, will make that process of getting you up and running more seamless.
If someone was looking at a builder's merchant or a manufacturer was looking at solving this problem, or they've got some of the issues that you mentioned, just now, what's sort of the top 3 practical things a merchant or a manufacturer could start doing today, start improving the quality and consistency of their product data before they start thinking about new systems and things like that?
I think it's a case of looking at where the best quality product data sits within the business as things stand. For a lot of organizations, it is the website, because that's the customer facing area for the product data. But I think working on cleansing that data, making it as readily available as possible, because one of the challenges that we find when going into projects is businesses have concerns around, well, actually, where do we have the most up-to-date version of the data? For most businesses, that's a challenge, because if that wasn't the case, then they probably wouldn't be in the market for a PIM. But the more work you can do in advance of going into any kind of discovery around improving your product management processes, reflecting internally around where's this data held at the moment, what's the best quality data that we currently hold. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, Alex, it's defining what good looks like. What would the ideal product data complete record look like for the business? And then absolutely that's something that PIM can help facilitate when you're working alongside our teams to provide you with the infrastructure to fully enrich your products in line with what the business defines as the best quality product data they'd want to put out onto the market.
So aside from those kind of solving the initial problems that they come to you with, when the builders merchant or manufacturers talking to you about products information management and that sort of thing, is there anything that you can provide to them that they maybe hadn't thought about, or gives them benefits that they hadn't even considered that helps them even further?
Absolutely. And I think this differs depending on where you sit in the supply chain, right? So if you're a manufacturer, things that you're responsible for are creating technical data sheets, sell sheets, safety data sheets, product line drawings. Lots of businesses are doing this completely manually at the moment. And again, going back to the earlier point, Alex, it's absolutely vital to have accuracy on this. And for some organizations, this will literally be one person's full-time job, keeping this up to date, particularly if they've got either a very large, diverse product range or a highly complex product range. Again, it adds to the difficulty in terms of managing this. And for these organizations, of course, it's providing this data downstream to their own website, even if they don't necessarily transact through it. But some organizations are becoming focused on B2C. I guess that's a business-to-business preference. Also, we still see that, for example, brochures, catalogs are very much prominent in this market as well. Again, a lot of organizations have either very manual process, which restricts the amount that they can do in this space, or they have to work with an agency, which means that that capability is not in-house and often comes at a significant cost to the business as well. Looking a bit further down the supply chain at your merchants and your distributors is very much that product onboarding, getting the product information into the business. They're often working with a very diverse product range, where some suppliers will be better than others at providing data to them. And it's how can we make it easier as a business to onboard, standardize this information so we can get it ready to list it upon our sales channels. I'd say those are some of the key considerations. And in order to support that, Pimbly has a supplier portal, the vendor portal, which has seen significant uptake because ultimately it's beneficial for both parties, right? For the suppliers, it's easy to understand what the customers want from them, makes it easier to transact, and ultimately enables the customer to get their products listed on their own sales channels with less manual intervention. So ultimately they can get their products listed and therefore sell more of their products with a faster turnaround time. So that's why we're finding that absolutely our distribution and our merchant customers are gaining value from the vendor portal, and their manufacturers are buying into it as well, because one of the issues that we find is that often things take place over email, or that communication, things can get missed. No one has a true understanding of what is required from the other party, and therefore there's lots of leaks in the pipe, whereas it looks to very much not just drive greater efficiency in the process, but also governance around this as well.
Yeah, you just mentioned governance there. Maybe there's a point here to be made about compliance. As we're looking to the future, the next few years, looking at things like new regulations, digital product passports, how are those sorts of things shaping the future for builders, merchants, and manufacturers from a kind of product information perspective?
Regulation is driving so much in this space. One theme that comes up all the time in my conversations these days, whereas perhaps 18, 24 months ago wasn't so prominent, is around packaging data. How can we manage this? How can we provide this downstream to our customers? Because of the plastic tax, businesses want to effectively capture the materials and the types of plastics they're using in their packaging, also the weights and dimensions around it, due to the sheer volume of the taxes that are put on businesses if this information isn't captured correctly. CCPI is becoming increasingly prominent in construction code for products information. For anyone who's not aware of that, very much driven by the Grenfell incident, and therefore traceability of data and having industry standard data is of the utmost importance for these organizations. And then with trends such as digital product passport, which is on the agenda for some businesses in this market. Now, I imagine as this develops more over time, with the release of further regulations from the EU, this will become increasingly prominent. It's all around how can we provide the infrastructure to these businesses to effectively manage and govern their data internally without having that manual approval process that currently takes place and is often very much spreadsheet driven and ad hoc, to a more structured, systemized way of managing things, which is absolutely more scalable for the business.
Is there anything else you want to cover, Alex?
So in terms of just a quick summary from myself, Alex, I'd say that PIM is something that we're finding businesses are at different stages of their journey. It's absolutely something that businesses have got more aware of now than they did a few years back, for many of the reasons we mentioned previously. But the utopia for businesses is how can we, one, drive efficiency in the business, and two, drive profitable growth. And the PIM should unlock both, right? Because like I mentioned earlier, it's enabling people to save time on previously manual tasks and ensure that we are able to facilitate great quality product data to our various routes to market, and ensure ultimately we can drive greater product sales, whether it be online or more traditional routes to market as well. And that, in line with data governance as well, are the three key areas where Pimbly can really add value to businesses within the building materials market.
Brilliant. It's about competitiveness as well, isn't it? It's like being able to compete in the market, especially when you're supplying these giant businesses. You mentioning B&Q, Screwfix. These businesses need their data in a particular way, and if you're breaking into the market, you're looking to grow, you need to play their game a little bit, don't you?
100%. These businesses have got such buying power in the market that unless you conform to the formatting of the data that they ask you to, every organization wants to be listing their products with these brands. So therefore, it's how can you provide a competitive advantage to yourselves in order to make it as easy for these big businesses to transact with you, and therefore get your products listed on their channels so you can essentially have them visible to their very large customer bases.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining me, Alex, and those listening as well. Please be sure to subscribe to the Pimbly Perspectives podcast for future episodes. And if you have any other comments of your own about what you've heard in this episode, or any questions for Alex, please do leave them in the comments or let us know. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.